They have to teach you what to feel guilty of. Then they forgive you for engaging in that behavior. Now the beauty of it is, they almost always choose something you're going to do anyway, like sex and eat. So if you're going to have sex and you're going to eat, we know you're going to violate it. We know you're going to sin. Have you noticed that many of the sins have nothing to do with abnormal behavior? Eating or having sex? Even having sex before marriage. What's abnormal about that? Many cultures, before they got infected with Christianity or Islam, had no big deal. It was no big deal about having sex before marriage. So there's something going on there. And we'll learn about that in a little bit. Forgiveness. And they seek that forgiveness and they feel, oh, man, Jesus has forgiven me. And it's such a relief from the guilt they learned from that God virus in the first place. And then they go right back and do it again because they feel the tension. You know, that cookie tasted really good. My girlfriend and I had a great time. You know, whatever it was. You start feeling the tension, engage in the behavior, feel the guilt. Then you have to go back to your God virus to get the forgiveness. Your specific God virus. So forgiveness does not generally change behavior. And you know, quite frankly, religions don't want you to. They just want you to feel guilty about it. Don't stop screwing your girlfriend. But do come back to us for forgiveness. That's exactly what they want. And the proof is in the pudding. This whole abstinence-only bullshit. When I was growing up, we were taught, do not have sex before marriage. And we had that beaten into our heads when I was growing up as a kid. I can't tell you how many girls got pregnant in our church before they were even out of high school, or barely out of high school. Now, if it worked, then we should have all been celibate as priests, but we weren't. Yeah, that's probably a bad one, isn't it? So forgiveness isn't the issue. Forgiveness only brings you back to your particular God virus. So the whole moral of the story is, you're never good enough. And to that end, you hear all sorts of triggers, if you will, one of which is music. And Chris is going to help me out here. So hit it, Chris. All right, ready? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Blind, but now I see. Give Chris a hand. Isn't that a beautiful song? And aren't those horrible words? Yeah. Because music has the potential to open you up just like hypnosis does. Music puts you into an altered state of consciousness where you are now receptive to verbal messages. One of which is, you're a wordless, useless human being. You're a wretch. It's what it says right in the song. What a wretch I am. So, isn't that amazing? If you look, about 80% of the hymns in any Protestant hymnal deal with guilt in some way, shape, or form. Guilt is incredibly important, and it's being taught to you from the day you know how to sing Jesus Loves Me, practically. It's a really important thing. That's the message you're constantly hearing from religions. You also hear that God saved me, so now I owe Him. I owe Him my money, I owe Him my time, I owe Him my dedication. It's the, what's it called, survivor syndrome. You know, we all know what survivor syndrome is. 3 people get killed in a car wreck, and you're the 4th person, and you say, well, God must have had a plan for me. He murdered the other 3, but He had a plan for me. And you hear people on the television talk about that. It's just crazy. Well, that's a part of the whole survivor syndrome. Well, Jesus saved me. I'm a survivor. I need to go out. If Jesus saved me in that car wreck, I better go out and dedicate my life to Jesus from now on. And you got whole churches that have been built because of people's survivor syndrome. The Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee was built by a fellow who was as sinful as there ever was. The Music we just sang here was written by a slave trader who was taking slaves from Africa to North America. He wrote this song. Isn't that interesting?
He didn't stop the slave trade after he wrote the song.
Yeah, he didn't stop the slave trade after he wrote the song. So you can see, guilt doesn't stop anything. Guilt drives behavior. Think about that. Guilt drives behavior. You actually oftentimes do more of whatever it was. Okay, we're going to talk about sex and the God virus after a 5-minute break. So let's don't be a homosexual. Don't have sex before marriage. Don't do certain things if you are married. You know, don't have sex outside of marriage. There's all these don'ts, don'ts, don'ts. There's no, don't like it either. Yeah, don't like sex. There's all these don'ts, but there are not many do's. In fact, I didn't learn any do's when I was growing up. Just all those don'ts. So, what is the purpose? Well, the God virus is designed to make you feel guilty about sex, so you will come back to our particular God virus. It's that scam we talked about earlier, but it's very powerful. Modern religions learned this somewhere in the last 2,000 to 2,500 years, that sex is a great way to infect people with religion. Many, many non-Western religions, including many Polynesian religions, didn't have any problems with sex. The Hawaiian culture, before it met the missionaries, had more taboos on eating food than they did about sex. Who you were married to didn't seem to make a lot of difference with respect to who they had sex with, because marriage was a very loose institution. But it's when you get religion, especially Western religions like Islam and Christianity, but also Hinduism and Buddhism. Both of those have very strong sexual taboos in them as well. Don't let anybody tell you Buddhism is just a philosophy. Yeah, maybe it is here in the nation, in the United States, but when you go to Thailand and look how it's practiced in the village, it's still very much a religion with all sorts of superstitions and sexual taboos. So, it's a powerful tool for infecting people. And the example is masturbation, because every primate masturbates. Most mammals masturbate in some way. We're primates. I've been masturbating since I can remember. You know, I started when I was 11 years old. And I was taught very early on it was wrong. It was something to be feel guilty about. So if religion can find something that you're going to do anyway and make you feel guilty about it, hey, that's perfect. You've got to come back to us to get forgiveness. In our Recovering from Religion group in Kansas City, we have 3 of them actually, but one of them we have this ex-priest. He went all the way through seminary and practiced as a priest for 2 years, and now he's an atheist. But he tells the most interesting story. He said, I could go about, and all through seminaries, I could go about 30 days without having to masturbate. And then I'd masturbate, I'd jack off, and then I'm going to go to hell. Then he had to run over, find a priest, and confess to the priest. Oh, feel relief. You can go about 30 days before he masturbates again. Go find another priest. 8 years of this he went through. Isn't that interesting? 8 years of it. Well, I had that same, I'm Protestant, raised Protestant, and I had that same kind of guilt when I was growing up. And many of us did. You know, I don't remember my parents ever telling me, masturbation is wrong. I never remember my mom telling me that once. Somehow I got the message. I got it from my peers. I got it from church comments that people made in church, Sunday school teachers making comments. It's there. Even if you're not raised religious, the religion pervades Western Christianity, and its taboos about masturbation and sexuality pervade our culture. So even if you weren't raised that, you may still have been affected by the guilt cycle that those religions create.